This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. It's tax season, and we're all a bit tired of numbers. But here's one you need to hear. $16.5 billion. That's how much the IRS flagged for possible identity fraud last year. Now here's a good number. 100 million. That's how many data points LifeLock monitors every second. If your identity is stolen, they'll fix it, guaranteed. Save up to 40% your first year at LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
This episode is brought to you by Honda. Introducing the all-new, all-terrain Honda Passport Trail Sport, the most off-road capable Honda Passport Honda has ever dreamt up. The Passport features increased ground clearance, roof rails on all trims, and available specially developed all-terrain tires. And you'll stay comfortable with tri-zone climate control and available features like heated and ventilated front seats and a panoramic moonroof. Learn more at honda.com/passport.
It's not really about the food, because a lot of people eat and they don't even think twice. I just always am amazed, like when I eat out with my guy friends, because they don't sit there and ask each other what they're getting, and they don't sit there and think, oh, I could get a salad, but I really want a burger, but I guess I could get the burger and take the bun off and just cut up the burger and then put the burger on the salad. Like, they don't think like that. I think we're just kind of taught that like women should be more careful. And I'm like, wait a minute, you've always just eaten intuitively. And you've never been told that like, oh, if you eat too many almonds, you're gonna get fat. Like, no one's ever told you that. But we teach women that from a very, very, very young age, and it's really, really twisted. So ultimately, it's never really about the food. It's usually about something else. Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the show. Thank you so much for clicking on today's episode. I hope that you guys are having an amazing week. It is April 17th as I'm recording this little intro, and no, it's actually the 16th. This week has been so weird. It's been so weird for so many reasons. The biggest thing that's happened though is that I just turned 25. I turned 25 yesterday, and I wasn't really excited about it. I was kind of nervous. There's just been a lot of shifts and a lot of changes happening in my life. And tomorrow I've got next week I've got a really big update for you guys, just in terms of like my kind of like school and career and this podcast, and just I've got some stuff to chat with you about. So please stay tuned for next week. We just wrapped up the surf series 2 weeks ago, and then I had some really cool guests on last week, and so just kind of in this like interim period, I wanted to rerun one of my favorite episodes that I've ever recorded on this podcast, because it's really, really important. So this episode I recorded about a year ago, and it's all about how I stopped binge eating and how I kind of found a really healthy relationship with food. And let's use that term loosely, because there's a million directions that we could take that relationship with food kind of phrase in. But I wanted to rerun this episode because it's an important one. So if you guys listened when it first came out about a year ago, you might remember this, but I just wanted to pop on before we get too far in to let you guys know that this is a rerun from about a year ago. So I talk about some things that were kind of happening in my life at that point a year ago. And it's kind of cool to like listen back and see how far I've come since recording this and what's changed. So yes, this is a rerun, but it doesn't make it any less important. So thank you guys so much for listening. I am excited to share this with you, and I hope that you guys enjoy today's episode. Let's dive in. Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the show. Thank you so much for clicking on today's episode. My name is Lily. I'm your host, and long time no chat. I missed you guys last week. To be totally transparent, I was just down for the count. I had just gotten back from the Nashville trip, which was really, really fun, but I was just completely exhausted, emotionally drained, and it was fun, but just a lot of social activity. And even before the trip, I was feeling anxious about it. Also, transparency, I was about to get my period, or supposed to get my period when I was on the trip, and then I didn't, and I got it now. Like, everything's fine. Don't there's none of that going on, so don't be concerned. But I think my body was like, okay, she can't handle like getting her period because she would just probably collapse. And then on Sunday I cried a lot, but whatever. It's fine. We're good now. I'm back. I'm better than ever. Actually, I'm feeling 1,000 times better. And we're here to talk about a pretty heavy topic today. So strap in, buckle up, but I'm in a good mood and I'm feeling good about it. And I'm just feeling very called to share about binge eating and how I overcame it. And I feel like this episode will definitely help more people than I think it will. So I'm feeling encouraged by that. So just know that that's what we're going to be talking about today. It's obviously in the title, but if food is something that you struggle with, this episode is definitely for you. I know that it's really hard to listen though. Like I remember when I was really in the thick of it, I couldn't even listen to episodes like this when people would post about, food habits or really food anything. It was such a sensitive topic for me and I wouldn't even click on the episodes. So the fact that you clicked on this episode means that you are moving in the right direction. And I'm really, really happy because just knowing that you're not alone and hopefully hearing my perspective on binge eating and just healthy versus unhealthy eating habits in general, I think is helpful. And just knowing that you're not the only person going through it and a lot more people struggle with these things than you think. Needless to say, I've come a long way because considering I used to never even be able to talk about it. And then now I'm making a whole podcast episode about binge eating. That's kind of cool in a sense of that I've just come a long way and now I can help you guys. So yeah. Before we get into that though, kind of to set the scene for you guys, I'm in the living room. This weather's insane. It's it's April 29th, about to be May. And I'm just so happy summer's back. The sun rose at like 6:30 this morning. I woke up naturally at like 6:45. It was just insane how much the weather and the sunshine impacts my mood. And whenever I have a really, really, really good day, I'm always reminded of how important it is to get outside, go for walks, and spend time with friends. Like I saw a reel the other day that was like, I think our main purpose in life is just to spend time with our friends. Like forget about working, forget about the to-do list, all the things. I think that our main goal in life should just be spending time with our friends. And as I've dived deeper into my faith, that really, in my opinion, is or should be our top priority, is just spending time with people. And whether that's, obviously the goal of being a Christian is to help more people get to heaven, but also loving on people, even if they don't know God. And I just feel so strongly that people have to be a priority. And so yesterday was a good day. Today's feeling like a good day. The weather has something to do with it. Spending time with people has something to do with it. That's the other thing too. Like last week I got home and I was socialed out and I'm such an introvert and I expended all my energy all in one place and I couldn't bring myself to be social. So I had to like recharge up and then get back to hang out with friends and stuff. But I just firmly believe like no matter where you fall on the introvert extroverted scale, you have to spend time with people. And that has been such a healing element for me in my life. And yesterday was just so good because I had a little bit of everything and the weather was great. I sat outside for a while. I journaled and I have like a mini announcement, which I'll make in a second because it's kind of cool, that I've been praying about. It's been on my heart a lot lately, but we'll talk about that in a sec. But yeah, and then I spent time with Lexi and then we went to the grocery store. We had a friend over for dinner and we just sat at the table for like 2 hours or so and just laughed and talked and had fun. And I slept so well. Like as soon as our guests left, I got in the shower or I put my pajamas on and then I just went to bed. Like I didn't scroll my phone. I think I read a couple pages, but I was so tired. And I was like, dang, every time I have a good day, it's a good one. And I'm just reminded of how simple life can be when you just like put down the phone and hang out with your friends. I know that Obviously, you can't do that every day, and not every day is going to be the best day ever. But there are little things that you can do to bring joy into your daily life, even if it doesn't feel like it. And I feel like I'm kind of getting ahead of myself here, but especially when it comes to anything body image related, it feels so lonely. It feels so, so lonely. And I just want you to know how important it is to spend time with people who make you laugh and do things that bring you joy every single day. Even if it's hard, even if getting out of bed and making your cup of coffee is the only thing that you can do that day that brings you joy, do that, and do that as much as possible, because life is too short to be sad and to be miserable. Okay, so my mini announcement that I wanted to make is that it's been on my heart for about a year now to do something that combines faith and fitness. I feel like as women, the fitness industry can sometimes get competitive, and something for me that has been so helpful in my fitness journey is working out with my girlfriends and working out with other women who lift me up. And I would just love to help bring women together in some capacity to do fitness and do like a Bible study or a devotional session after. So like, do you guys, I don't know if a lot of high schools had this, but my high school had FCA, Fellowship of Christian Athletes. And it would be like a 15-20 minute, I don't even think it really was a Bible study, because it wasn't, I don't know, what's the difference between a Bible study and a devotional? Because I kind of like know the differences, but I don't know like by definition the differences. I think it was more of like a devotional at FCA, but it was just a way to get people together, study the word, whether it was a chapter or a couple verses, and then kind of intertwine that with sports. And that's always been kind of a sweet spot for me. And I just love fitness. I love athletics. And so I've had this little idea on my heart for a while to start some sort of club for women who we can come together, get a workout in, and then study the word. And so I have decided to start a run club here in Eastport and adjacent to Annapolis. We'll probably run downtown a little bit too. But yeah, I'm just going to toss the invitation out there and see where this goes. I put it up on Instagram stories the other day, and I said a prayer before, and I was like, God, this is up to you, and I'm just going to invite people and see what happens. And the response was like overwhelmingly positive, and you all seem to really be excited about it. So if you're in the Annapolis area and you want to run with us, it'll be a little 30-minute. You can walk to 30 minutes. We'll probably do like a loop, and then come back and grab coffee, and then I'll sit down and do like a 20-minute devotional session. So if you want to join us, we're starting this Friday, which will be May 3rd in Eastport at 7 a.m. So if you're interested, send me a DM on Instagram at Lily Rayco, and I will send you the exact location of where we're going to meet. But yeah, I'm really pumped just to see where this goes. And if there's a good response, we'll do it for a couple weeks and just kind of like see what happens. But yeah, it's something that, like I said, has been on my heart for a while. Run Club Friday, Eastport, 7 a.m. DM me for exact location details. And I'm pumped. I'll see you guys there. So let's dive in. Let's talk about the deep stuff, the stuff that no one really likes to talk about. Honestly, when I was struggling the most, I think a big part of the loneliness and the continued struggle was the fact that I felt like there wasn't people talking about binge eating or being obsessed with food. And it wasn't until I think it was Tori DeSimone's podcast episode, and she just kind of like mentioned something, like started like listing some stuff off. This was probably, or maybe 2021. I can't even really remember, but she started like listing some stuff off, and I was like, okay, that kind of sounds like me. It would probably have to be like 2021, because like 2019 is when I really started to like get into wellness. And I think a lot of girls kind of got in. It was kind of the end of like the Soul Cycle era. It was like food combining pre-2020. So everybody was like really grinding and hustling. And then during COVID, I think people just kind of like, You could go in like either direction, and I became like obsessed with food. And I had always kind of grown up in a wellness household, but my kind of obsession with food, I think like as a young adult, really started in like 2019, 2020. And I slowly started to take away food groups, whether that be like gluten or red meat or whatever, because I really just felt unhappy in my body. And I thought that taking away certain foods would allow me to achieve a certain body goal. And I went to the Institute of Integrative Nutrition because I was like, okay, well, this was like in the middle of my like health and wellness obsession, and I was like, okay, well, I really want to learn more about my body, and I feel like what I'm doing really isn't healthy. And so I went to IIN and I loved it. It was so, so cool. And I recommend it to everyone. And it was one of the best health coaching training programs. I learned so much. One of the topics that they cover, kind of a large portion of the course, is eating disorders and bad eating habits, or bad, struggling with a relationship with food. I just remember kind of like reading some of the stuff and like watching some of the videos, and I was like, that kind of sounds relatable, but like that could never be me. Like, I'm just doing what's healthy. Like, that could never be me. And they would say things like, okay, well, if you're always thinking about food or thinking about your next meal or saying no to vacations or dinners with friends or no to plans because the food that you would want to eat isn't going to be there, then it's probably a red flag. Or if you're constantly wondering what your next meal is going to be, that's a red flag. If you aren't able to concentrate on your work because you're just thinking about food, or feeling guilty for eating food, or feeling hungry because you're not letting yourself eat food right now, that could be a red flag. If you're planning your day around when you're going to eat and when you're going to exercise, and then when you're going to eat again, and then when you're going to exercise again, that could be a red flag. So I always kind of knew in the back of my mind, like these kind of bullet points of like, okay, like these are some red flags, but that can never be me. And you guys probably know my story if you've listened to the show for a while, but I started a new job and the stress was just a lot. And it's one of those things where like it wasn't at first, like it was great, and all of a sudden it wasn't. And it all happened so fast that I didn't even really see what was happening until I looked back and I was like, dang, like this is really, really, really bad.
Halliday presents, in the red corner, the undisputed, undefeated Weed Whacker Guy. Champion of hurling grass and pollen everywhere. And in the blue corner, the challenger, extra strength Halliday. Eye drops that work all day to prevent the release of histamines that cause itchy allergy eyes. And the winner by knockout is Halliday. Halliday, bring it on.
Experience a progressive lens engineered with AI from Essilor, powered by individual measurements of your visual behavior. A lens personalized to you by an Essilor expert. Discover Verilux XR Track and enjoy instantly sharp vision in motion and seamless transitions from near to far. Find your local Essilor expert today at Essilor.com.
It was all the boxes were checked for me when it came to food obsession. Like, I would plan my day around when I was going to work out in the morning and then what I was going to eat. And then I would be worried all day long that like I didn't pack enough food because I'm going to be hungry, or I just wouldn't pack food at all. And then I would either eat so much during lunch and then like snack a little bit when I got home and then feel like I ate too big of a lunch. So then I would let myself skip dinner and then binge from like 9 p.m. to like 11 p.m. at night. Like just all these like weird little schedules that I would make for myself around when I was going to work out versus when I was going to eat. And I was obsessed, like so obsessed. And I would be sitting in my cubicle thinking about what I'm going to eat next or what I'm not going to eat next. It was always so distracting. Or like if I slept in and missed a workout, that was like, it was like the end of the world because I didn't get my workout in. And I knew in the back of my mind, like, working out makes me feel good and I'm going to be a better employee if I work out. But I was also doing it because I thought that I had to achieve a certain body. And I think I've got 3 main points that I want to make throughout this episode. And the first one is this, is that ultimately it's never really about the food. Your food obsession is never really about the food. And it takes a while for you to step back and realize that, wait a second, this whole food obsession, this binge restrict schedule that I'm putting myself on, it's not really about the food, because a lot of people eat and they don't even think twice. Like, I mentioned that we had a friend over for dinner last night and he was a guy, and one of our good guy friends, and we were talking about the difference between like how boys eat and girls eat. And I was like, do you want me to cut this extra bell pepper? Like, how much food are you going to eat? Like, I said, whenever I cook for men, granted, he's like significantly taller and probably like works out more than I do. But I was like, how much food are you going to eat? And he's like, oh, like a medium amount. I was like, bro, what's a medium amount? Like, I don't know what that is. Because granted, boys' portions are typically bigger than women's portions. But I just always am amazed, like when I eat out with my guy friends, because they don't sit there and ask each other what they're getting, and they don't sit there and think, oh, I could get a salad, but I really want a burger, but I guess I could get the burger and take the bun off and just cut up the burger and then put the burger on the salad. Like, they don't think like that. They're like, okay, I want a burger. Okay, I'm gonna get a burger, and can I get bacon on it and cheese? Like, they don't sit there and plan out their meals like women do. And I don't know why exactly we do that. I think we're just kind of taught that like women should be more careful with what they eat, which is true. I mean, I'm 24 now, and I feel it if I eat like a lot of cheese or if I eat a lot of ice cream, I start to feel a little inflammation. My skin starts to break out a little bit. Like, there are repercussions depending on what you eat, but everything in moderation. But men don't really, at least the men in their 20s, they just don't really seem to have that problem. And I'm like, wait a minute, you've always just eaten intuitively. And you've never been told that, like, oh, if you eat too many almonds, you're going to get fat. Like, no one's ever told you that. But we teach women that from a very, very, very young age, and it's really, really twisted. So ultimately, it's never really about the food. It's usually about something else. And I can't necessarily name what that something else is in your life, but I know in my life, it was control, it was bad body image, and it was extreme stress. But I think the driving factor was probably body image, because I always had this idea in the back of my head that I had to look a certain way. And I had this idea in the back of my head of really just like an unrealistic expectation of what my body was supposed to look like. And I never, ever, ever, since the time I was in like middle school, I never looked the way that I wanted to look. And that's so silly. I swam on a swim team in high school, and I just remember, like, I mean, obviously you're literally in a bathing suit, like you see everybody else. And I remember looking at some of my teammates and comparing my body to theirs and just thinking, okay, if I could just lose 5 pounds, then I'd be happy. If I could just lose like this around my stomach, then I'd be happy. If I could just whatever, then I'd be happy. And it was always this comparison of like, oh, I just don't look like her, so because of that, I must not be sufficient. So I always had a really bad view of my body. There's a gal who is on American Idol right now, and her name's Emmy Russell. And I saw her song come up on Instagram Reels probably like in the fall maybe, but then I saw that she's on American Idol, which I'm like, you go girl, that's awesome. But she wrote a song and then she sang it, I think, for her audition, and then she sang it again on one of the live shows the other day, and it's called Skinny. And there's a lyric in it that almost brings me to tears, but she says, God, I hate how you made me. And like that just, like, it cuts so deep, but it like kind of hit the nail on the head, you know, for like how I felt in middle high school, most of college. I just hated the way I looked and like how sad. So because of that, it became an obsession of the food. And I also think I felt like my life was out of control in a lot of areas. And so, just various life struggles, and you're learning how to be an adult and manage just life in general. And it's really, really hard. And so I was lacking control, and food was something that I could control. And I was more stressed out than I had ever been in my entire life. And because of that, a natural reaction to stress is overeating. But you can't heal a body that you hate. And the other day in one of my classes, I was reading chapter 5. It's about motivation and emotion. And they started talking about hunger. And I was like, ooh, this is interesting. And there's a theory called set point theory. And I'll just read it right from the textbook for you guys. Set point theory suggests that the brain maintains a genetically predetermined weight range. In this model, the brain controls weight by regulating hunger hormones and the metabolic rate. Granted, this is just a theory, so it's not necessarily fact, but it's a theory that your brain has an ideal weight for your body. And that's kind of where your body naturally falls and where it's its healthiest. And so I read that and I was like, that's interesting. The textbook goes on to say, when calories are restricted, the body slows the metabolism and goes into starvation mode, where certain bodily functions are temporarily ceased or slowed to conserve energy. That's why a lot of times when people are struggling with anorexia, they lose their period, because obviously if you're not feeding yourself, you can't carry a baby, you're not going to have a period. Same thing with many eating disorders. A lot of women do lose their period because their bodies just aren't being fed well, and you can't reproduce if you're not being fed well. But I thought that theory was really interesting because it was almost like comforting to a degree. And granted, I'm pretty good now. Like, I'm open to talk about all this stuff, but like, it's just comforting because I'm like, yeah, that does make sense. Like, my body does have a healthy weight that it likes to stay at. And then the textbook does go on to say, which I think is important to note, so that's why I'm tossing it here in the podcast, but set point theory is helpful, but the theory cannot account for the increase in obesity rates that have been reported over the last 50 years. Theoretically, set points should be maintained. It seems likely that environmental factors are playing in as well. So that's kind of just to say that, like, it's a theory, so it's not necessarily fact, and you do have to be mindful of, okay, obesity rates are rising. Like, we can look around and see that. It's pretty obvious. And are we being healthy and maintaining a healthy weight, or are we maintaining an unhealthy weight that our body has set because we've truly leaned into those very unhealthy eating habits? Granted, this is all theory, but it is very helpful to just kind of understand how your body maintains its weight so it can function properly. Okay, my second main point of overcoming binge eating is that you have to tell someone. You absolutely have to tell someone, because until you say it out loud, there's really no way out. I think too, saying it out loud helps to kind of kickstart some sort of active shift in your heart too, because it's really like I mentioned in the first point, since it's not really about food, it's about something in your brain or something in your heart that you've been telling it or someone else has been telling it that has to do with your self-worth. And until you admit that to yourself, you really can't change. So I think the best way to admit it to yourself is to tell someone, whether that is a friend, a therapist, parent, a teacher, a mentor, just someone. Tell someone. And a lot of freedom comes from being vulnerable and admitting what's going on in your heart and in your body. And I think for me, I got to a point where I felt so inadequate in myself and in who I was. I kind of didn't have a choice. I was like, okay, it's either tell someone and start to feel better, or what? Like, it literally was like, that's the only option. That is the only option. And because I felt so inadequate, I was like, okay, truly nothing worldly would help me. And that's when I really turned to Jesus, because I just was like, I give up. Like, I really give up. And it's not up to me anymore. Like, truly, Jesus, take the wheel, because I give up. And for me, that's when a shift really, truly happened, was when I told someone what was happening. And I just let it be known that you're struggling, because you shouldn't have to struggle alone. And whether you are a Christian or not, and you're listening to this, just know that there are so many ways that the world will tell you to change your body, especially as women. I mean, men are not immune to it, but especially as women. Diet culture is everywhere. It's take this workout class, do this, do that, then you'll be skinny, then you'll have the body. The world will always have a new idea for you. But you got to get to a point where you just say, like, I'm tuning that out and I'm plugging into something that's bigger than myself, because world, you have it all wrong. Your obsession with image is disgusting, and I'm uninterested in that. That's what you have to say. And that's a really, 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 really tough shift to make. So that's why I think it's important. This is point number 3. You have to shift your focus. And I mean on like a very tangible level, like trying to make the mindset shift of like, I'm tuning the world out and I'm tapping into something bigger than myself. Like, that is a very fundamental value-based shift that you have to make. That takes a lot of work. But where on a tangible level can you shift the focus? Is there a project that you could plug into? Is there a way to maybe cut back on the workouts? Is there a way to maybe take up a new hobby? Is there a way to maybe prioritize spending time with your friends and eating meals with your friends than prioritizing when and what your next meal is going to be? And this is hard, but I had a friend one time, I was just we were chilling on the back deck, and he said something to the effect of like, I was like ranting to him about a problem. And he was like, why don't you just kind of ignore the problem? And I was like, what a concept. What a concept. And not in the sense of like, oh, ignore your problems and cover them up with bad habits. But the more energy you put into the situation or the problem, the more it's just going to fester. And he was kind of like, just leave it alone for a second. Like, leave this situation alone and go. He literally just said to me, he was like, go work harder. Like, go work on the podcast. Go write another book. Go do something else. He's like, but just don't pay attention to this, because this is going to sort itself out. But you need to just go do something else. And like I said, not in the sense of you're running from your problems or that you're ignoring your problems, but you're just really shifting your priorities. If your main focus is food and it feels all consuming, it most definitely is. So shift the focus to something fun. And I think a major shift that I made in my life that really, really helped was eating meals with people and inviting people over for dinner and being intentional with meal times. There's something called the blue zones, and it is, I think it's 5 or 7 areas of the world where people live the longest. And one of the factors of the blue zones is that they all eat pretty relatively well, but it's not necessarily just the food that they eat. It's the way that they eat, and the way that they eat and live pretty much in communities. And nowadays, people are sitting in their 1-bedroom apartments, like shoveling kava and just watching TV and then going to bed. And that's really not what we were designed to do. And so when you eat with people, I think it really just changes the meaning of food. It doesn't have to be this like enemy, essentially. You know, you don't have to just eat chicken and rice all the time. Like, you can eat chicken and rice and some guac and some chips and some peppers and make it a taco bowl and eat around the table with your friends. And then it's just spending time with your friends and you guys are having dinner and enjoying it instead of you like shoveling your chicken and rice and then going to bed. You know, it really shifts the meaning of it all, because like I kind of opened this episode with, like, the meaning of life is just really like spending time with your friends and hanging out and like having a good time and like making a good life. And it's not about counting the calories and obsessing over food and watching yourself absolutely just crumble because this image of perfection is absolutely unattainable. There is a verse in Galatians that I really like, and it's Galatians 1:10. Now, am I trying to win the approval of human beings or God, or am I trying to please people? If I were still trying to please people, I would not be a servant of Christ. And when I think about body image, I always just think about it's this idea of who I'm supposed to be for what. Like literally for what reason am I supposed to look that way? For what reason? And whatever that reason is, it's fictional and it's not my main purpose. So I want to give you guys a little activity to walk away with if you listen to the end. Something that really helped me when I was in the depths, in the trenches, if you will. I would write sticky notes with Bible verses or quotes or just really anything positive, and I would put them on my bathroom mirror because I would look in the mirror and I would feel sad, but then I'd look at a sticky note and I would feel something else. And I encourage you to write something on a sticky note, whether it's a Bible verse. Psalm 139 verse 14 is a good one. I will praise you because I have been remarkably and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful, and I know this very well. That's a good one. Or the Galatians verse that I mentioned, Galatians 1:10, or just any quote, anything that you want to put on your mirror just to make yourself feel a little bit more encouraged when you look in the mirror instead of discouraged, because it can be a really discouraging experience to look in the mirror and not see what you want to see. That's your homework. Get a Post-it, write something good on it, and tag me. If you do that, just post it up on your mirror and then snap a picture, tag me 8020pod 8020pod. I would love to just see what you guys write and repost you and give you some love. Join us for Run Club Friday in Eastport at 7 a.m. DM me for the exact location. And that's kind of it. I love you guys so much. Thank you just for listening, for letting me share. I hope that this episode just inspired you and encouraged you and makes this journey of life a little bit easier. So love you guys lots. I hope that you have a great rest of your day, and I will talk to you soon.
Are you looking for your new favorite podcast that's both entertaining and will challenge you in your walk with Jesus? Hey, we're Mac and Ken's from the For the Girl podcast.
Every Tuesday, we break down everything that we wish someone had told us in our 20s. From faith and relationships to wild career transitions, we're getting real about all of our mess-ups and the things God has taught us along the way.
Think of us as your hilarious weekly dose of honest conversation with your internet besties who've been exactly where you currently are. So come check out For the Girl on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you love to listen to podcasts. And make sure to click follow on our show so that each new episode is dropped right into your personal feed.